Washington, D.C. can't handle incoming illegal immigrants. Finland's prime minister likes to party. And President Biden cancels billions in student loan debt. That and more on this week's headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Matt Gnaizda. Let's start this week with some good news. A new study shows that regular exercise can help slow the effects of Alzheimer's and dementia in older adults who've begun to experience cognitive decline, which is encouraging, except for the fact that I don't have dementia and I forget to go to the gym every single day. Luckily, I haven't shown any symptoms of memory loss yet. Regular exercise can also potentially reduce COVID risks. This is according to a peer-reviewed analysis of 16 studies from around the world, involving nearly 2 million adults. It claims that regular exercise is correlated with a lower COVID risk, reducing infection by 11% and serious illness by 44% compared to people who are more sedentary. But what the study neglects to mention is that if you do work out, you have an infinitely higher risk of tripping while going for a run, splitting your pants, and distracting a driver who then causes a pileup. Yeah, best to play it safe, stay home, and enjoy binge-watching all 42 seasons of Survivor. I'm not lazy. I'm saving lives. And maybe staying indoors right now isn't the worst idea since there are new Omicron subvariants out there. These subvariants, Omicron BA.4.6 and BA.2.75, are showing up just in time as the surge from the last Omicron subvariant, BA.5, is starting to die down. I'd go into the details of the story, but by now, you already know all the details. Reporting on new COVID subvariants feels like living out Groundhog Day at this point. Whenever there's a new COVID strain, instead of publishing repetitive news articles, DJ Khaled should just pop out like a COVID groundhog and say, "Another one." In response to this news of new Omicron variants, Dr. Fauci said, "Later, suckers, Fauci out." Okay, that's not exactly what he said, but it was the gist of it. He announced he would step down in December from his roles as director of the National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and chief medical advisor to the president. He's stepping down? Wow, and I thought the rest of us were tired of COVID. In a statement, Dr. Fauci wrote, "While I am moving on from my current positions, I am not retiring. I want to use what I have learned as NIAID director to continue to advance science and public health and to inspire and mentor the next generation of scientific leaders as they help prepare the world to face future infectious disease threats." Well, considering Fauci also admitted the NIAID would keep funding Chinese research with U.S. tax dollars, it appears the next generation of scientific leaders will have plenty of future infectious threats. Another one. Over the last few months, Texas and Arizona have bused thousands of illegal immigrants to Washington, D.C. And earlier this month, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser asked the Pentagon to deploy the National Guard to assist in dealing with them. The Pentagon rejected that request. Then this week, Bowser asked the Pentagon a second time to deploy National Guard troops, specifically to help the city house and process all of the migrants. The Pentagon rejected this request again. The bus rides are voluntary and funded with taxpayer money. Some on the left say that those who take these trips were tricked and don't know what to do upon reaching their destination. Texas Governor Abbott's office pushed back on that by releasing the consent form the migrants are given in English or Spanish that has them agree to their destination. Texas has bused over 7,000 illegal immigrants to Washington, D.C. since April, and Arizona has sent over 1,500, which sounds like a lot, but it's only a small fraction of the thousands of people released every day into border communities. The D.C. mayor says that this is too much for the city to handle, but Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says that sending the National Guard would disrupt their training and readiness. The Defense Department also said that troops have no experience in providing food, sanitation, or other support to migrants. And he recommended that D.C. use non-government groups to assist. I have to wonder, is the National Guard not being deployed because this isn't that big of an emergency? Or because the Biden administration doesn't want to admit it's an emergency? Since he's largely being blamed for the situation at the border, which is seeing over 200,000 migrant encounters a month. This is like if a roommate refused to hire a maid after not properly dealing with the dirty dishes for almost 2 years. Why would you need outside help? It's not that serious. Only, instead of dirty dishes, it's human beings being used by both parties as political pawns. Real neat. Leading into the midterm elections this November, the Democratic Party is starting to feel like a sinking ship, so much so that some Democrats are running campaign ads where their biggest selling point is that they also don't like Democrats.
It's why I stood up to summon my own party and pushed to cut the gas tax and to hire more police officers.
This is like a Domino's pizza store saying, I know our pizza sucks, but I'm gonna fix it. And the craziest part of that analogy is that Domino's Pizza actually did that over a decade ago, and it boosted their sales. So if Democrats want to succeed in the midterms, their new slogan should be Democrats. We suck, but we're working on it. More after the break. Welcome back. Here's some good news. A new study shows that regular exercise can help slow the effects of Alzheimer's and dementia in older adults who've begun to experience cognitive decline. Which is encouraging, except for the fact that I don't have dementia and I forget to go to the gym every single day. Luckily, I haven't shown any symptoms of memory loss yet. And here's some more good news. A Brooklyn Uber driver paused in the middle of a ride to the airport, ran into a burning building, and helped guide residents out to safety. And if that wasn't enough, he still got his passenger to the airport in time to make her flight. This was a truly selfless and heroic act. But he smelled like smoke and didn't have an extra phone charger, so 3 stars. What can I say? Young folks love their phones. And you know what else they love? Marijuana and hallucinogens. A National Institutes of Health study found that more young adults used these substances last year than ever before. Which isn't really a surprise considering weed is legal for recreational use in 19 states plus the District of Columbia, and legal for medical use in 20 other states. And psychedelic mushrooms have been so destigmatized that they'll actually be up for legalization in Colorado this November. Wow, who could have guessed that if there aren't consequences for doing something, people are more likely to do it? That's probably why so many members of Congress do insider trading. There are laws against it, they just don't care. Speaking of people on drugs, Finland's 36-year-old Prime Minister, Sanna Marin, has been accused of having an excessive party lifestyle. She was seen clubbing in Helsinki at 3 a.m. after being in contact with someone who had tested positive for COVID. And topless photos of female guests making out at her residence during a party were shared online. Marin said, "We had sauna, swam, and spent time together. That kind of a picture should not have been taken, but otherwise, nothing extraordinary happened at the get-together. Yeah, those were just normal parties with a sauna, swimming, and topless women. Not as cool as my parties, which involve me and 5 other guys playing Settlers of Catan. Expansion pack." And yet, some people are accusing Marin of partying too much and working too little. Some even accused her of being on drugs after seeing videos of her dancing. To quell those accusations, Marin took a drug test and it came back negative. Which I think is actually worse. You mean to tell me you weren't high when dancing like that? That would have at least been a good excuse. As an American, I can understand why some people would think their leader would need to be on drugs to be out dancing. Because the last 2 American presidents are so old, the only way they could physically dance is either drugs or puppet strings. Okay, yeah, you know what? I'm going with puppet strings. And after the break, Donald Trump wants to block the FBI from looking at his stuff. Welcome back. Some good news today. A new study shows that regular exercise can help slow the effects of Alzheimer's and dementia in older adults who've... Wait, why does that sound so familiar? It's probably nothing. Totally unrelated to being old, Donald Trump. Trump filed a motion in a federal court seeking to temporarily block the FBI from reviewing materials they seized from his Mar-a-Lago home 2 weeks ago. The motion states, "Politics cannot be allowed to impact the administration of justice. Law enforcement is a shield that protects Americans. It cannot be used as a weapon for political purposes." The motion requested the review be put on hold until an unbiased third party is appointed to oversee it. That review would determine if any material should be returned and ensure that investigators don't gain access to privileged information. I'm not sure if this request can be fulfilled, though, since literally no one on earth is unbiased when it comes to Donald Trump. Even the neutral aliens from Futurama go to war on Twitter over whether Trump is a golden angel or an orange devil. On Friday, the Justice Department released a heavily redacted version of the Mar-a-Lago affidavit. Unfortunately, that happened right before we recorded this episode, so we don't have a lot to say about it yet. But in the meantime, Trump's supporters say this is a nothing burger, while his detractors say we've got him this time. How many times have we seen stories like this? It feels like living out Groundhog Day at this point. Whenever there's a new Trump investigation, instead of publishing news articles, DJ Khaled should just pop out like a Trump investigation groundhog and say, another one. Speaking of controversial figures, Dennis Rodman. Rodman said he's going to travel to Russia to try and convince authorities there to release WNBA star Brittany Griner, who was imprisoned for marijuana possession. What is it with Dennis Rodman being so friendly with dictators? He's friends for life with Kim Jong-un and called Putin a cool guy after meeting him in 2014. Poisoning your rivals and committing war crimes is cool? No wonder my parties are so lame. A State Department spokesperson indicated Rodman would just make things worse, saying, "We put forward a substantial proposal to Russia to seek the freedom of Paul Whelan or Brittany Griner. We believe that anything other than negotiating further through the established channel is likely to complicate and hinder those release efforts." The substantial proposal he's referring to is an offer to trade Brittany Griner and imprisoned U.S. citizen Paul Whelan for Victor Bout, a Russian arms dealer known as the Merchant of Death. Makes sense why Rodman thinks he can help now. If going from the Spurs to the Bulls in '95 showed us anything, it's that Rodman has experience when it comes to terrible trades. Oddly enough, Rodman does have experience getting prisoners released from authoritarian nations. Missionary Kenneth Bae was imprisoned in North Korea for alleged hostile acts against the Republic, as he was found in possession of a hard drive filled with anti-North Korean material. He was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. And Rodman helped get Bae out by drunkenly ranting on CNN that Kim Jong-un was right to imprison him. Bae actually thanked Rodman for doing this, claiming it's what ultimately led to his freedom. He said, "Because of his rant, media attention for my plight was increased. So if I meet him one day, I want to say thank you for doing what he has done. He really brought international attention for my plight." So if we want to hashtag Free Britney, there's only one thing to do. We got to get Rodman good and liquored up at a wild party with the Finnish Prime Minister. Speaking of people trying to help, President Biden announced he would fulfill a campaign promise and cancel a significant amount of federal student loan debt for most borrowers. His plan is for anyone earning under $125,000. It involves canceling $10,000 in student loan debt and $20,000 for anyone who received Pell Grants. He also extended the student loan repayment pause through December 31st. Wow, the president followed through on a campaign promise and has a concrete plan in place. As you can imagine, this made everyone furious. One study estimated that this plan would cost taxpayers $329 billion over the next 10 years. And right-wingers are upset at this cost in the midst of inflation and an ever-rising national debt. They say it's too much money. Meanwhile, left-wingers, including the NAACP, are saying it's not enough and he should cancel $50,000 in debt. So Biden pissed some people off when he did nothing and pissed everybody off when he did something. I think he'd be better off never promising or doing anything, like Kamala Harris. So what do you think about the stories we covered this week? Leave your comments below. And be sure to support America Uncovered by going to patreon.com/America Uncovered. Contribute $1 or more per episode. We rely on your support to help us keep making great episodes. Or join our exclusive censorship-free social media community on Locals. Check out americauncovered.locals.com. Once again, I'm Matt Gnezda. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.